That sound hit first metal screaming across concrete so hard it made my teeth hurt, and when I looked up from the stale coffee in my hand, I saw my trailer being hauled down the street like somebody had stolen it in broad daylight. Not cited, not warned about, stolen by a rust bucket tow truck with Ranger Recovery peeling off the side in faded red letters. And before that truck even reached the corner, I already knew who'd done it. I live in Cedar Heights, one of those neighborhoods that looks peaceful from the outside, neat lawns, little flags on porches. Underneath all that, though, we had Karen Bentley, the acting president of the HOA, a woman who treated bylaws like Holy Scripture and carried herself like God had personally handed her a clipboard. Karen had it out for me since the day I moved in. I didn't go to board meetings, and I definitely didn't enjoy the little warning notices she kept taping to my door. So when she found out I kept a trailer beside my detached garage tucked behind a privacy fence fully off-street and invisible unless somebody was snooping from an upstairs window, she saw her chance. This wasn't some junk trailer either. It was a reinforced government-issued equipment trailer I used through my work with a contractor tied into DHS, FEMA, and emergency response operations. Matte black secure locks, inventory tags inside, and on the rear panel, clear as day, a Department of Homeland Security emblem etched right into the metal. DHS, not HOA. Karen wasn't working off caution. She was working off ego. By the time I got to the curb, Troy Mercer's tow truck was already halfway down the block with my trailer bouncing behind it. Troy was Karen's favorite contractor, a greasy guy who once bragged at a neighborhood barbecue that he could hook a Range Rover in under 3 minutes. I didn't yell. I didn't chase. I just stood there for a second, coffee dripping over my knuckles, and felt this weird calm settle in because underneath the anger was one beautiful thought. Karen had finally overplayed her hand. So I went back inside, opened the hallway desk, and pulled out a binder. Tucked between federal paperwork and registration forms was Karen's complaint letter about unauthorized trailer storage. Weeks earlier, half as a joke, I'd written one word across the top in red ink noted. I made 2 calls. First, to my supervisor. I told him a federally inventoried trailer had been towed off my property without permission because an HOA president got drunk on power. He got quiet, then said, "Send me the location. Don't touch anything else." The second call was to my cousin Danny at the sheriff's office. She heard 3 sentences and said, "Please tell me this was Karen again." 15 minutes later, the tracker on the trailer pinged from Troy's impound lot. I didn't go there. I wanted this handled the right way, the way that really scares people who confuse authority with power. By noon, Karen did something so unbelievably stupid it almost deserved applause. She sent an HOA email blast with the subject line, "Eyesore eliminated, community standards restored." She attached a blurry photo of my trailer mid-tow and signed it like she'd just completed a noble civic mission instead of authorizing the removal of marked federal equipment off private property. A couple hours later, 2 unmarked SUVs rolled into Troy's lot. They photographed the tow slip, photographed the emblem, made 1 phone call, and informed Troy that his towing license was being flagged for review pending investigation. Nothing goes in. Nothing comes out. Troy went dead silent. The next morning, I printed the federal registration, highlighted the DHS marking, stapled her complaint letter to the top, clipped it all to a bright pink clipboard, and left it on her porch with a sticky note that read, "You may want to read this before noon." Then I went home, cracked my garage door halfway, and waited. At 11:52, her upstairs blinds twitched. Karen liked to monitor the neighborhood from what she once called her executive perch. 30 seconds later, her front door flew open. She marched across her perfectly edged lawn and shouted, "This is a misunderstanding," before I'd even said a word. I stepped out and said, "Then you'll be thrilled when DHS confirms that." She froze. Just for a second, but I saw it, that tiny flicker when certainty turns into fear. Then came the deflection. "Your trailer violated community standards. I was enforcing policy. I didn't know what was inside." I laughed. "So your defense is that you authorized towing a locked government-marked trailer without knowing what was inside it?" Her mouth opened, then closed. "I'll contact the towing company," she snapped. "They can't help you," I said. "The trailer's under federal hold now. Also, your victory email got forwarded to the field office. They love the photo." I have never seen color leave a face that fast. She turned and went back toward her house, muttering about lawyers and policy interpretation. That afternoon, Eleanor Gribble, our actual HOA board secretary, marched up my driveway carrying a stack of meeting minutes. She forged the board vote, Eleanor said, before I could even invite her in. "Your trailer was never approved for towing." She put my name on that nonsense like I signed off on it. I absolutely did not. And there it was, the real kill shot. Because one thing is worse than overreach: fraud. With Eleanor's notes, the official minutes, and Karen's own email trail, I filed a formal HOA complaint that triggered a special review under the bylaws. Karen wasn't just under federal inquiry anymore, she was now facing suspension for falsifying board authorization and initiating property action without approval. When she got the notice, she apparently screamed, "I am the HOA." By the end of the week, Karen was suspended. Troy's business was under review, and the neighborhood group chat had turned into a bonfire where everybody brought old grievances and gasoline. That was when I realized this had never really been about my trailer. Karen had become a problem because everybody had let her turn petty power into real control, one warning, one fine, one ridiculous lecture at a time. So I did what any calm, sarcastic man with a binder and a grudge would do. I organized a meeting. I went door to door with a clipboard expecting a few signatures. What I got instead was a flood. A mother told me Karen had cited her toddler's sidewalk chalk as surface defacement. A widower got fined for the wrong shade of mulch. A teenager got warned because graduation balloons caused temporary visual obstruction. One woman told me Karen had complained about a yard gnome being culturally inappropriate. I needed signatures from 25% of the homeowners to call a special vote. I got 43% in 2 days. The meeting happened Friday night at the rec center, and the place felt less like a neighborhood function and more like opening night for a trial everybody had secretly been waiting to attend. Karen came in late, naturally dressed like she was headed to court and church at the same time. I stood at the podium and walked the room through everything. My trailer parked legally on my property. The tow in progress. The DHS emblem. Karen's bragging email. The forged board record side by side with Eleanor's real minutes. Every slide landed like a hammer. The room got quieter and quieter because this wasn't gossip anymore, it was proof. Karen tried to interrupt twice. The second time she snapped, "This is a witch hunt." And I said, "No, Karen, this is paperwork." That got a laugh, then silence again because everybody knew it was true. When the vote was finally cast, old paper slips counted by hand. Dramatic as hell. The result came back 91% in favor of permanent removal. Not close, not divided, a landslide. Karen didn't cry, didn't argue. She just turned, walked out, and slammed the door hard enough to rattle the folding chairs. A week later, the federal report wrapped. Troy settled restitution community service license suspension. Karen wasn't charged criminally, but she was named as the civilian instigator, and the agency sent a bill for damages and response costs just under $12,000. The HOA refused to cover it because her actions were outside her authority. Then, because humiliation apparently wasn't enough, she sued the HOA in small claims, trying to force reimbursement. The judge tossed it in under 10 minutes. I know because I was there in the back row with Eleanor. Now the trailer is back where it always was, parked in the exact same spot beside my garage, legal locked, monitored, and somehow shinier than before. And the real lesson in all of this wasn't about the tow truck or Karen or even the HOA. It was this power gets dangerous when small people are allowed to play with it for too long and kindness without boundaries turns into permission. Most bullies don't start with grand cruelty. They start with small, stupid things everybody tells themselves aren't worth fighting. A note on your door, a fine over chalk, a warning about balloons. And by the time somebody finally says enough, they've built a whole kingdom out of other people's silence. That's why I don't regret any of it. Not the reports, not the meeting, not the look on Karen's face when the room turned on her. Because justice doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it arrives in binders, timelines, signatures, and one furious old lady with meeting minutes. These days, Cedar Heights is quieter. No more decorative flag wars, no more dawn patrols over hedge symmetry, no more newsletters scolding grown adults like children. People wave again, they talk over fences, they laugh more. Karen still lives here. She walks her poodle at odd hours, avoids eye contact, keeps her head down. And every now and then when I'm on my porch with coffee in hand and the evening sun hits that trailer just right, I catch her glancing at it before she looks away, like she's staring at the exact moment her little empire died. Maybe that's karma. Maybe that's accountability. Maybe it's just what happens when somebody finally pushes too far and runs straight into consequences bigger than their ego. Either way, around here, that trailer isn't an eyesore anymore. It's a monument. So let me ask you this, when somebody abuses a little local power for long enough, where's the line between enforcing rules and becoming the very problem those rules were supposed to prevent? And if you've ever dealt with an HOA Karen or anybody drunk on tiny authority, Tell me your story. Was this justice, revenge, or a little bit of both?